So you know how every year there's always that guy or two that stands out at the training camps or the preseason and people talk about them for years on end? We've had moments like that in 2020, 2021. Everybody in the content creation space knows this. So before we get into the full swing of training camp, I actually wanted to claim my stake on who I think will be the surprise player of the 2022 Dallas Cowboys training camp when it's all said and done. And I believe that player will be Sam Williams. And I'm going to go through the rationale of why I believe that will be the case and why I think you should start buying into his stock now while it's still low so you can, be the claim to fame. But before I go any further, if you guys could do me a favor and like the video, it doesn't take too long to do whatsoever, and it's greatly appreciated, so thank you. Subscribe if you're new and hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss out on new content when it drops as we get further into training camp. So look, I have Sam Williams being the surprise player of the training camp this year, and there are a couple reasons why, as mentioned. So the first thing is you got to look at the room for the Cowboys in the defensive end department, okay? Or you can call about it the whole defensive line, and for that matter. So we all know that you have DeMarcus Lawrence as one of your starting guys. He's solidified. There's no question about that. Now it's kind of like, okay, so who steps up and replaces Randy Gregory? Now there are many people, and myself included, who have talked about, okay, it kind of looks like that Dorrance Armstrong is the replacement. They gave him the money. He's probably going to start on the cheap end of things and go from there. And then you also added a guy in Dante Fowler in free agency that brings you that rotational possible starter end quality depending on how he fits here. But the thing that separates Sam Williams from the Armstrongs and Fowlers of the world is that Sam Williams has these natural abilities to get around the edge, similar to another guy that came out of the draft that the Cowboys snagged, and that was Randy Gregory. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and say Randy Gregory and Sam Williams are the same player or something like that, because I felt like Randy coming out of college was a more natural pass rusher. But look, you see how much Dan Quinn was working with this guy in the offseason before the draft, you name it, and it really feels like that's his next pet project, if that's how you want to call it. It felt like Micah was that first one, and I think Sam Williams, who ironically looks very similar to Micah, which is hilarious, I think that there's a possibility that he can have a solid impact. Not saying starting, but impact. So look, with what you have in, again, Dorrance Armstrong and Fowler, you kind of have this, okay, you know what you're getting, but it's not anything crazy. It's like, okay, you got a player that's going to give you solid production, but it's not outer-worldly. I think the one thing that helps Sam Williams here is that obviously he's a talented individual. That's why, Dan Quinn was really high on him in the draft process. So when you kind of look at all the notes and stuff like that people have mentioned with Sam Williams, even if he doesn't start in the long term, I think that as we get thoroughly through the training camp process, I think that you could see Sam Williams being a 4.5 to 6 sack guy, which again, for a rookie is not bad because of the situation. It's different if he's starting, and I'm going to be honest with you, like, Sam Williams, it's not like he has a tough hill to climb up. Am I insulting Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler? Maybe. But I don't really value those guys highly. I think they're solid, productive players that can start on a franchise of any team that needs a quality starter or a decent starter, more in particular. But again, with Sam Williams, and I think this is where his advantage comes in and why he can fly under the radar, is with him being a rookie, he's not being forced in. Well, maybe if you look at him as the Randy Gregory replacement, but for me, I think if you look at how the Cowboys have structured themselves, it feels like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We have, a guy in DeMarcus Lawrence that's established, and then you have the rotation behind him, and then as Sam Williams gets more snaps, maybe he ends up becoming this guy where you're like, oh, snap, he actually is a starter, and you say, okay, Dorrance, sorry, but you got to go, And, Dante Fowler ends up being the piece that's kind of the bridge for Sam Williams to move in. But he's a very talented guy, and I think that that's why I believe he will be the surprise of training camp. He's going to be working his ass off. I think Dan Quinn's going to work with him thoroughly to ensure that he does his job and gets better every single week. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but there is one guy that I think will be the surprise. People will be shocked. I know a lot of people that were like, I mean, me too. I was kind of like, you kind of reached for the guy, but if you can get this guy to be molded into what Dan Quinn wants him to be, hey, you got something, and that's not even me trying to be like Kool-Aid drinking. Like, he has a very good resume from Ole Miss, with his football career. So, with that being said, that's my thoughts on Mr. Sam Williams, why I think he will be the surprise player at training camp. And so if you guys have any others that you think might be the surprise player at training camp, leave that down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.